we've managed to muck it up.
Yeah,
and so many of the modalities focus on it.
I've often said on air that life is simple. We complicate it.
Oh, so true.
Yeah.
So true. We make it so complicated. And, think about this for a minute. If we're watching a sunrise and we don't have the ability to think or to hear or to speak, all we have is sight. It is simply a sunrise. That's it. It doesn't have any meaning.
Nope.
But as soon as we start putting word and emotion, it's a breathtaking sunrise, it's fantastic. Oh, it was depressing. It was disappointing. I never should have gotten out of bed this morning. It's our words and our emotional tone that we use with that word that make it what it is. The reality is, it's just a sunrise. And so if we understand, we do that across the board in everyday life. Life itself is meaningless. When we were given life, we were not given meaning to life. And every event we have, we choose the emotion to the event. And so it makes it that much more easier and simplifies when people have had a traumatic time in their past and they just can't seem to get beyond it. If you can go back and look at it and understand what you learned from that event, because that's a good perception, then you can change the perception of the event. The event itself stays the same, but you can change how you feel about it by changing the perception of the event itself.
Patti, many times we've had people on the show who talk about past lives, their past life experiences. And I was wondering, can you actually bring baggage with you from your past lives? And using your technique, can these pieces of luggage be dispelled? And
yes, it really can. There's three kind of common themes of past lives, and one is, we reincarnate into a new body, and our soul continues the journey. Edgar Cayce's would be that we go into a universal mind, and if you have the same frequency as Cleopatra, then you're going to pull Cleopatra's memories out of the universal mind, and that's why millions of women feel they were Cleopatra. But science has a theory that we actually store our memories within our genetic strain, within our DNA. And so if you're having a past life or a deja vu experience, you're actually having an ancestral experience. In any of those, whichever one you believe, all you need to do is use color or tone to start removing it. And what you would say is, what color do I need to remove the memory of being a poor, poverty-stricken individual in the 1600s or whenever it was, and start moving that through your body. Because again, people will have, past life regressions done, and they'll say, wow, this is why I'm still so poor. I carried that over. In some ways, I think that that's kind of a, not taking personal responsibility for your life. But in the other way, it may actually be holding them up. And if people understood their power and capability to actually change their life by such a simple method, I think people would really start doing it without any issues, realizing that it doesn't really take that much to change your perception. You just need to be open to changing it and not holding on to things that are not of value to you.
Patti, what are some of the major changes and cases that you've worked on that you can share with us?
There's been so many awesome ones. There's been a case recently of a little 11-year-old who has had severe dissociative anger disorders to the point where he's grabbing knives and trying to kill the family. Gosh. And I've been literally putting his neurons back together. And it's pretty intense work in the middle of the night while he's sleeping in his state. But it's the ability to shift that frequency. There was an awesome woman who had come to me with ovarian cancer, and her mother had died of ovarian cancer just the month before. And she was diagnosed shortly after her mother died. and they both had ovarian cancer in the right ovary. And I said to her, "What did you say to your mother as she was dying?" And she said, "I was just holding her in my arms, and I just said, 'Don't worry, Mom, you'll always be a part of me.'" And that frequency of her mother went into the right ovary in her. As soon as I saw that those two frequencies were, that she had a frequency that wasn't her, we used color. We just said, "What color do we need to move your mother's frequency out of your right ovary?" And we breathed it through for 10 minutes, and a week later, she was cancer-free. So, the body move it fast.
How do the doctors who have been taking care of people like this young lady, and who come to you, and you're able to cure what they say is incurable?
Doctors have gotten so much better, seriously, over the last 18, 20 years. Doctors have gotten so much better in believing, because while they may be skeptical in the beginning, as soon as they see something happen that they can't explain,
right?
And we have a dialogue about frequency, because they understand frequency. We've got our X-ray machines, and we've got our MRIs, and they're using frequencies within their practices. They begin to understand, and it was really cool. I think you and I talked a few years ago, and I was in Istanbul, and I was actually teaching to a group of cardiologists.
Yes.
At the hospital there,
yeah.
and teaching them how, when they're doing an open heart surgery or a heart transplant, to actually feel the frequency of an artery being blocked, so that they don't go down that way, so that they enter the heart a different way. I think that when more doctors are willing to take that kind of training, because they're already intuitive, they don't call it that. They call it their gut instinct, which is intuition. But the more that doctors and people can understand and actually feel the frequency or perceive the frequency, then they become much more precise in what it is they're actually doing. But doctors are really coming around. They really are. When you can talk string theory and quantum physics to them, they can get that. They can understand it and apply it in their own practice.
Okay. I find it very frustrating, because here we have Patti Conklin, a lady that I've known for years, who has the ability to help so many people. But you're only one person, Patti. Is the medical community joining the crusade that you're on, and can you see more of the medical community actually merging with the alternative healings?
I really do. I honestly think the challenge at this stage in evolution is the alternative community has such a negative about the Western community. And I think that if people can let go of their judgments, if someone needs to have chemotherapy and radiation, let's say they have cancer, the medical community may say, you need chemo and radiation. And the alternative community is saying, that's going to kill you. That's poison. That's going to kill you. And I'm in the middle waving a flag going, well, wait a minute. If that person, while they're getting chemo, says to their body, what color do I need to have the precise amount of chemo to reverse, to remove the cancer and let the rest of it come out of my body? Your body will do that. At nighttime, people report just black ooze coming out of their pores, which is the excess chemo that their body didn't need. My patients don't go through the side effects. They don't lose their hair. They don't become anemic. They don't have all of those, because I help them understand that that's a belief system that no longer needs to be in play. So I think that there's times when the body needs Western and alternative needs to be okay with that. And there's times that the body truly needs alternative medicine, and Western needs to be okay with that. So I think that when I'm looking at classes or really doing in-depth training, I've got more of the Western modalities coming to me than the alternative modalities. And I'd like to see both of them open up.
Are there patterns to disease, or is everything totally unique to the individual, Patti?
it's pretty unique to the individual. I mean, I've worked on over 100,000 people now, and, I see a few generalities. Generalities such as fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, Epstein-Barr are typically always boundary issues, the inability to set a healthy boundary. When I look at spinal cord diseases, MS is always hatred or rage stored within the spine at about T7. And these are usually really laid-back people, people that rarely get angry.
Yeah.
But when they get angry, they blow, and they blow hard. Allergies are learned behavior, Rob. They are the easiest things to fix. When people have severe environmental allergies or food allergies, within hours they can be in a smoky bar drinking beer and pizza and be okay. And it's understanding that when you have an allergic reaction to something, you go, "Oh my gosh, I'm allergic," and your body goes, "Well, okay, I can do that." Instead of looking at what your emotional database was 24 hours prior to the allergic reaction, because that's what created it. So, there's some generalities. Crohn's disease are typically people that will really store deeply and won't vocalize what's going on with them. But other than that, typically when trauma occurs, that trauma is going to go to the weakest part of the body in that given moment. So let's say you get in a car accident. And you've had, a cold and your lungs are, weakened. Mm-hmm. The trauma is going to go into the lungs. And while the medical profession may say, "Oh, gee, you're healed. I don't know why you're still having problems," it's because the trauma itself is still stuck within the body. And people need to say, "What color do I need to remove the trauma of the car accident from my lungs?" And then it will move through. The other thing that is really important for people to understand who have transplants is the reason why the body starts to reject the transplant is because you've got another subtle energy field from the donor in your body. And your body can only handle one subtle energy field, and it attempts to get rid of the other. So if you were to say to your body, "What color do I need to remove the subtle energy field from the donor organ? And what color do I need to put my subtle energy field into my organ?" then your body will do a complete shift. And I've actually had people who have been able to go off the anti-rejection drugs because they've been able to synchronize the subtle energy field as their own. The body will do a lot if we just ask it.
Patti, you and I have to take our final break for this hour. Please stand by, dear. Exonation, Patti Conklin is our special guest this hour. Her website is www.patticonklin.com. That's PattiConklin.com. Patti's got a brand new book out. It's entitled God Within, The Day God's Train Stopped. And once again, her website is www.patticonklin.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com. MATSTEIN.com.